Well, we've had quite an interesting day today, everybody. We've talked about big investments in processing capacity at Norboard. We've looked at Highland Roads. We've looked at modal shift onto rail. We've looked at investment and new planting. It's all been very positive. We've even had flying rats earlier, which is good to see. But unfortunately, somebody always comes along and spoils it by talking about safety and all those kind of implications. But first of all, to introduce people who aren't aware of Working Group 6, which is your sort of dedicated forestry accord, which just deals with forest haulage safety. And the group is all about hauliers. One of the things that we did when we started the group was, first of all, it's made up mainly of hauliers, and anybody that isn't a haulier is a haulage manager. So it's a dedicated group. It's not made up of kind of management contingent. It's really all about hauliers and what they want to do and what they want to see. So in that regard, it's not about paperwork. It's not about making your job harder or more difficult or more bureaucratic. It's about genuinely trying to find out ways of making hauliers work safer. The first thing that the group did really was look at available publications which were just dealing with pure forest haulage. We found that there wasn't much available. The safety industry, as it were, was looking at the main, what it regarded as the main problems in the industry in terms of safety management, and that is usually all about the harvesting side of it, chainsaw operators in particular, harvesting operators. But hauliers are a very vulnerable sector, in a very vulnerable section of our industry for various reasons, and we found that there was no publications available. So the first thing was the Forest Haulage Safety Manual, and I really do commend this publication to you. And we always thought when we published this that we wanted to see this in the cab of every lorry in Scotland, and every lorry in England, and every lorry in Wales. So, please, if you haven't seen it, read through it. There's lots of things in here. Some of it seems fairly obvious, but we keep having accidents about the fairly obvious all the time. So definitely we want to see this kind of fairly widespread, and we'll be doing quite a lot of work on dishing this out. But there's a few thank yous here because FISA doesn't have any money really in terms of able to do anything. So thanks very much to BSW in the first instance for their marketing department that put this together, and thanks latterly to JST and especially to Volvo Trucks for enabling us to run this latest publication. So really are grateful to Volvo for that and for sponsoring the day. The other one was safety guidance FISA 706. Again, these are the original kind of AFAG safety guides. They cover all sorts of forestry operations, but we've only just published, can you believe that? We've only just published a safety guide for road haulage. And for people who are compiling risk assessments, and for people who are getting audited by Health and Safety Executive, the kind of the sort of management protocols that they're looking for are usually based on best practice guidance, of which the FISA safety manuals are pretty integral to that. So this is really your building block for haulage risk assessments and safety management. So a long time in coming, and apologies for that, but at least we've now got that, and this should be your building block for haulage safety in the future. So one of the big dangers that we have with hauliers out there in the forest these days is electricity power lines, specifically overhead power lines. Timber hauliers, as you all know, there's a lot of you in the room at the moment. You're highly skilled, highly motivated, and absolutely integral part of the timber supply chain. As people have said earlier today, we cannot do this job without excellent logistics, and of which the vast majority of that logistical supply comes by our haulage contingent. The issues we have, though, is you're working alone. You're working in remote areas. you're working in the worst possible weather. We've just had, I say, one of the worst winters that some of us can remember in Central Belt and the North. Difficult terrain, steep ground, steep roads, unsurfaced roads, poor weather. You're also under massive pressure to achieve very challenging delivery targets. We're all aware of that, and we're all massively grateful to the work that hauliers do. But especially in this current market, people are under pressure, and all these kind of constraints and pressures don't add up to a safe working environment unless it's extremely rigidly managed. Electricity, overhead power lines, as I've been talking about, represents a serious and growing hazard in the forest working environment, especially to our timber hauliers, especially when you're working in low light environments, especially when you're working at night and you're under pressure, it's raining, you can't see, you're in an unfamiliar area. And this has worried the working group for some time. Last year in our agriculture, in the agricultural sector, unfortunately there were 3 fatalities in the GB sort of health and safety management area. These were all by contact with overhead electricity lines, and this represents 10% of all fatalities in the sector. It's up from 4% average for the preceding 5 years. So not only are having these accidents, but they're increasing. Speaking from Forest Enterprise Scotland, we have a safety management system where we're monitoring what we call near misses, and again these are increasing. Contacts with power lines, damage to goalposts, not being reported. These kind of accidents and near misses are increasing in the forest. Common factor when we talk to health and safety experts is that workers and their supervisors have a very vague understanding of the hazards of electricity. Electricity, we all know what it does. It puts the lights on, but not many of us actually understand the dangers because we can't see it. And this creates problems for management, and again leads to people not taking sufficient precautions. So the working group, we recognise that a minimal investment, you're talking about something around about £500 for some of this technology to actually monitor electricity proximity in cabs. You're talking about £500 for the fitment of one of these devices, and when you think about the cost of a truck, what we're talking about, nearly £200,000. Yeah. It's a very minimal investment, and funnily enough, they're not universal. So, I mean, obviously there's fitting and additional cost to that, but the actual equipment can be quite cheap in some cases. But we think this can significantly reduce the accidents and the possibilities of people coming into contact with power lines by accident. So we've, in the FISA working group, we've commissioned a report, and the idea of the report is really it's cost-free. We're going to do the expenditure on that, and the idea is to do a group test with several different systems, and we'll look at the the advantages and disadvantages of these systems, how much they cost to fit, and specifically we're looking at how useful they are, how quickly they actually detect power lines, what sort of audible warnings are you getting, how quickly are you warned as you're approaching them, what distance do the warnings come on. And we're going to write this report, and hopefully that's going to be relatively informative for drivers thinking about considering fitting these systems. We're also going to ask for feedback from the operators. How easy are they to manage? How often do they go wrong? Are they missing things? Are they maybe causing false concerns with the drivers, or are they alerting them too early or too late? So again, going to be asking the drivers who are involved in the test about what's their opinion of the different systems. Hopefully the report will be due out by the end of March, but it's probably looking like April now, so apologies we haven't actually got the results of the trial. But what we're looking at is because of the minimal cost of this fitment, certainly in FES, I'll be looking at our contract, our contract direct hauliers, and be talking to them about possibilities of fitting these to all the vehicles that are contracted to work with us in the future if we get a positive, positive sort of feedback from the report. And again, I would like everybody who's running fleets to think seriously, if they haven't already got these systems in place, to think about whether that actually fits into your investment ideas in the future, because unless we get a pretty negative feedback from the report, we think that this is really something that we ought to be considering in all our fleets operating in the forest in the future. So Alistair gave a bit of a promotion about FISA membership. It's worth considering, that's all I can say. It's your industry safety accord, and really, again, you've got to ask yourself some serious questions about, if you're not a member of FISA, you might want to be thinking about why is that, and what's the problems with it, and why isn't it giving you, what you want, and whether we can do a better job in the future if you don't feel that it's something you want to subscribe to. So once again, thanks very much for your time, and again, thanks very much to Volvo for funding today, and I say funding the safety manual. Thanks very much.